Hi, I'm Jason Gorber for ThatShelf.com, and we're here to talk about Edgar Wright's Last Night in Soho.
Big shelf.
So, here we are. Edgar Wright bringing a film to Toronto, a place where obviously he helped craft some of our cinematic landscape with Scott Pilgrim. He's no stranger here. He's played many, many films in and around the Toronto area. But I think that this one really fits in really nicely with a sort of film festival aesthetic, probably in a way that many people might not see as overt or obvious. Sarah Thomasin, McKenzie, Anya Taylor-Joy, Matt Smith. It's Terrence Stamp. But what's interesting is it's being sort of put up as a thriller, which it really is. It's a little bit of a mystery, but not really. It owes a lot to early films from people like Polanski. I think Repulsion's an obvious one, but there's a little bit of the Tenant in here as well. It's a particular type of film that this doesn't make like ironic given its plot major. It's not that it's a throwback. It's just a type of film where you felt that there was a procedural element, almost a detective element, almost like things were being kept from the audience, but none of that really matters. It's a fine line, I'm aware, between giving that sensation that the audience is sort of ahead of game, like a true Hitchcockian suspense, like show the bomb, as it were. Somebody reminded me of that quote. It's like, it's much more suspenseful, as it were, to show the bomb and show the bomb ticking rather than like, oh my God, there's a bomb. The jump scare that sort of a lot of horror films tend to go for. You don't know anything's happening, then suddenly something happens. And there's a couple of those in this film. There's a couple sort of jump scare moments. But really what I found myself drawn into was every moment that I kind of knew where the film was going, I was still thoroughly enjoying the ride. And that is absolutely critical here. Unlike some of the films where it just requires that sort of, oh my God, here's the twist. Look at you, M. Night. This is something that I really look forward to watching multiple times because, again, the narrative is incredibly important. It's a very engaging story. You care about what's taking place, and it would be annoying to be told ahead of time sort of what actually transpires. I'm not going to do that. This is going to be spoiler free on that ground. But what I really love about it is once you find out what goes on, it's not like you're annoyed by what's going on. It's like, oh yeah, but that's not the important thing here. The important thing is I'm really engaged with these characters and the lives of these characters, how beautifully realized they are, how dimensional they all feel, how even people that we're not supposed to like or appreciate still feel more than just, they all feel believable within the context of this film. Which is, given the fact that it has supernatural elements, ESP elements, all this stuff, you kind of buy it. And that's pretty amazing. So much of that has to do with how carefully the film is drawn. It really feels immaculate. There's real precision at play here. And that should be no surprise. Edgar Wright's been doing this forever with this very immaculate staging, even on things that seemed a little bit silly, like cop films or zombie movies or whatever the hell he had going on. There was always a true cinephilia at play here. This is not just somebody that you're just gonna like appreciate for wankery or just that it's just a film there just to showcase. Look how clever the director is. No, everything here is absolutely positioned properly for the mechanism of how the film is told. So even when you have stuff like two characters that are dealing with mirrors, they're not perfectly in sync. It's not it. There's a distance between what's taking place there purposely. That it wouldn't make sense if it was some sort of robotic mirroring. That you are getting the way that these two characters interact through time, and do so visually, but also quite effectively. There's this perverse sequence involving a dance sequence with basically the two leads at different times and Matt Smith, and they're spinning around. And again, everybody knows Edgar Wright's been very vocal on Twitter, really engaging with his fans. It's one of the nice things about him. That being said, one of the things that sort of blew up not that long ago was his fascination with the Texas Switch, and some of them that a lot of people didn't notice. Now, this one sequence is like the Texas switch of Texas switches. It seems like there's like 15 of them, and it's really well done. It's like, it's one of those things like, oh, like, yeah, I see what you're doing, and I'm enjoying you doing that, and it doesn't feel cheap. Doesn't feel out of keeping with that. Most people aren't going to notice it. But yeah, anybody who's sort of paying attention to the, oh my God, how did he shoot that? You're going to applaud that. Again, the performers really feel exquisitely crafted. You never truly feel that, even at the most overt, the most genre-y that the film gets, that these are simply placeholders in order to get onto the next sequence. And I really, really appreciate that. And yeah, as a music junkie, as somebody who just adores the songs from the era of London that we go back to, the sort of late 60s period, there's incredible stuff taking place on the soundtrack. Some very overt and obvious stuff, the Platoon Clarks, the Celia Blacks, but some great stomping stuff. Not just Northern Soul hits. Like, I mean, that would have been weirdly obvious to do as well. Things that truly shine, but a very London soundtrack. Curated by somebody who really knows all the stuff taking place. I don't claim to be an expert, but I know enough that when you're throwing in stuff like Heatwave by the Who or the High Numbers, whichever way you want to actually consider that track, it was, we'll get into the nerdiness. It was something that was recorded for my generation, but definitely part of the High Numbers set list, and then recorded when the Who were doing their first record. It's very London-y. There aren't a lot of Rolling Stone stuff. There aren't a lot of Yardbirds, like that kind of stuff. There's a lot of pop. And there's a lot of the stuff that this character's grandmother would have listened to at the time, and mom would have listened to at the time. And yeah, there's absolutely that overt moment. It's like, why are you listening to this stuff? It's because the music back now is shit. And I'm not going to disagree with that. These are exquisitely crafted songs that are at times completely over the top, at times completely emotionally overwrought, like produced within an inch of their lives, crafted to elicit a very specific reaction, feel in some ways out of place in today's much more plasticky material, but nonetheless have this organic, exquisite quality. And the way the pop songs were produced and the way the pop songs are represented is exactly how this film plays out. This feels like a hit from the 60s in the best possible way, but without, yes, I mean, I'm dancing around it. It's absolutely a throwback, but it's not so nostalgic that it just becomes something that's running in place. It feels new. It feels fresh. It feels like a contemporary film from a contemporary artist who's correctly drawing from everything that came before and making it very much his own. It very much feels like an Edgar Wright film, but it feels less jokey. It feels less that he's having to hit things over the head in order to make his point, that he's going to allow you to be sort of embroiled in the narrative that he's telling. So in many ways, it feels purposely as one of his most mature works. Now, give this man all the money in the world to actually make a musical. I would love him to do, I mean, hell, do a film version of Hedwig. I would love him to redo Tommy. What the hell? I know we've had many debates about this. My love of Tommy versus his adoration for things like Phantom of the Paradise. But there are sequences in here that are absolutely straight up 50s and 60s musicals, just like there were in Baby Driver, just like there were, frankly, in some of the action sequences that take place in World's End and Shaun of the Dead, all these elements. He's somebody that knows how to craft things to a beat and to actually engage you in that beautiful collision that you get in exquisite moments of cinema where you truly have a merging of what's on screen visually, what's on screen musically, and what's taking place in terms of characters. There's echoes, overt echoes here to what Pulp Fiction was echoing. So you have band apart to Pulp Fiction to this. Again, part of that conversation, part of that sort of general flow that we have with the best of movies that's recognizing what came before, but also very much playing to contemporary audiences, just like the central character in this film. So yeah, I hope that audiences really respond to it. I hope that they are not put off by either only focusing on the sort of straight up narrative and not, embracing the texture, embracing the elements. I hope they have a chance to see it on a big screen because visually it's fantastic. I was unaware of the cinematographer before. He did a couple indie films. He's actually working on the Indiana Jones. Oh, sorry, the Indiana Jones, the Obi-Wan Kenobi TV show that's coming up. Visually, it's really, really strong. Beautiful use of gels and lighting and shadows to evoke a certain era. The fashion is fantastic. The way that that clothing evokes time, but also again that sense of a retro nostalgia that the film itself is commenting on and also trafficking. So yeah, I think it's definitely a film well worth watching. I think it's one of Edgar Wright's most engaging films. I was really drawn by the characters, and I look forward again for many more rewatches for where again the beats of the plot become even less integral to one's apprehension of the film, and you're simply enjoying the visitation of the world that Last Night in Soho actually evokes. So for thatshelf.com, I'm Jason Gorber. Thanks so much for watching. Plenty more coverage. Please subscribe. Please follow us on social media. Please leave a comment. Been really enjoying the comments, pro or negative. Why not? And we will see you next video. Thanks so much for watching. All the best.